The morning I climbed onto a billionaire's private jet with nothing but a worn toolbox and a lunch packed by my 8-year-old son, I thought I was there to repair a damaged hydraulic system. I had no idea that before sunset, an old pilot license buried inside my wallet would expose a $99 million fraud powerful people had spent years hiding. Even more unbelievable, the woman who owned the aircraft would trust a struggling single father with the truth that could destroy her entire company. If you've ever believed that kindness, honesty, and second chances can change someone's life, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the Dad Chronicles for more unforgettable stories of courage, family, and redemption. My name was Rowan Mercer, and life had become a constant balancing act between survival and fatherhood. Every morning before sunrise, I woke my son, Ellis, helped him button his school shirt, made him scrambled eggs, and reminded him that no matter how difficult life looked, good people never stopped doing the right thing. Those words were easy to say but much harder to live. 3 years earlier, I had been an airline pilot with thousands of flight hours, flying executives across continents under bright blue skies. Then one devastating engine incident that I safely landed without injuries became the excuse my employer needed during company downsizing. Rumors spread, investigations dragged on, and although I was cleared completely, no airline wanted to hire someone whose name had been attached to headlines. Bills piled higher than hope. My wife had passed away after a sudden illness just months before everything collapsed, leaving me to raise Ellis alone. I sold my house, my car, and eventually even my cherished flight jacket. The only thing I refused to throw away was my pilot license, tucked safely inside an old leather wallet because it reminded me that once I had touched the clouds. To keep food on the table, I accepted work repairing aircraft for a small maintenance contractor at the regional airport. It wasn't glamorous, but airplanes still made sense to me. Machines didn't lie. They either worked or they didn't. Unlike people, bolts never betrayed you, and hydraulic lines never smiled while hiding secrets. Every afternoon, Ellis waited for me outside the maintenance hangar doing homework on an old folding chair. Mechanics jokingly called him the youngest inspector in the state because he greeted every aircraft with wide eyes and endless curiosity. He dreamed of flying someday, even though he knew I couldn't afford flight lessons. Still, every evening we stood together watching airplanes disappear into the bright afternoon sky, promising each other that dreams only died when people stopped believing. One sunny Tuesday, everything changed when our supervisor rushed across the hangar carrying an urgent work order. A luxury private jet belonging to one of the country's most successful technology CEOs had suffered hydraulic irregularities after landing unexpectedly. The aircraft required immediate inspection before another scheduled flight. Everyone expected the company's elite maintenance team to handle it, but they were delayed by severe weather hundreds of miles away. Our small crew received the emergency contract instead. The jet shimmered beneath the afternoon sun like polished silver. Every detail reflected extraordinary wealth, from its handcrafted interior to its custom engines. Standing beside the aircraft was its owner, Serena Vale, a self-made billionaire respected for transforming a struggling software company into a global powerhouse. News outlets described her as brilliant, demanding, and impossible to fool. Yet the woman I met that afternoon looked more exhausted than intimidating. Dark circles framed determined eyes that suggested months of sleepless nights. While the other mechanics focused on paperwork, I quietly began inspecting the hydraulic assembly. Years of flying taught me to notice patterns others ignored. Within minutes, I realized the reported malfunction wasn't caused by ordinary wear. Someone had intentionally replaced a genuine pressure regulator with a counterfeit component almost identical to the original. It was an incredibly dangerous substitution that could have caused catastrophic failure during flight. Instead of making accusations, I documented every measurement carefully. My old pilot habits returned automatically. Safety first. Facts before opinions. Serena noticed the speed and confidence with which I worked. She approached, watching silently before asking about the damage. Rather than impressing her with technical language, I explained everything in simple terms anyone could understand. I described how the fake component endangered everyone on board and why someone experienced enough to access the aircraft must have installed it deliberately. For the first time that day, concern replaced her calm expression. She admitted several strange financial inconsistencies had recently appeared inside her aviation division. Maintenance invoices had doubled without explanation, replacement parts seemed unusually expensive, and records frequently disappeared before internal audits. She had suspected poor management, but never sabotage. As I finished replacing the counterfeit part, my wallet slipped from my pocket onto the hangar floor. Cards scattered across the concrete, including the pilot license I hadn't looked at in months. Serena picked it up before I could. She studied the license for several seconds, then looked back at me with genuine surprise. Her expression completely changed. She quietly asked why someone certified to command international aircraft was repairing landing gear instead of flying. I answered honestly. I told her about losing my wife, losing my career, losing nearly everything except my son. I explained that pride couldn't pay rent and that honest work was never something to be ashamed of. Every bolt I tightened represented another school lunch, another electricity bill paid, another promise kept to Ellis. She didn't speak for a long moment. Instead, she asked if I would join her inside the aircraft. The luxurious cabin contrasted sharply with the grease covering my hands. She opened confidential maintenance records stored in a secure compartment and invited me to compare them with the inspection findings. As I examined serial numbers, my heartbeat accelerated. The counterfeit regulator installed on the aircraft matched several purchase orders billed as authentic manufacturer equipment. The invoices totaled nearly $99 million over 4 years across multiple corporate aircraft. Someone wasn't stealing spare parts. Someone had built an enormous fraud operation using fake aviation components while charging genuine prices. The money trail stretched through shell companies, fabricated inspections, and falsified maintenance approvals. Even more alarming, whoever organized the scheme possessed enough authority to erase evidence. Serena leaned back silently, realizing that exposing the truth could implicate executives she had trusted for years. She admitted her own legal advisors had repeatedly assured her everything was normal. For the first time since founding her company, she didn't know whom to trust. Then she surprised me again. She asked whether I would help her uncover the full truth. I laughed softly, reminding her I was just a mechanic trying to raise a little boy. She smiled sadly and said that wasn't what she saw anymore. She saw someone who still chose honesty after life had taken almost everything away. Over the following weeks, I continued repairing aircraft during the day while secretly assisting Serena's independent investigators. We reviewed maintenance histories, inspected archived components, and interviewed overlooked technicians whose warnings had been ignored. One by one, the pieces formed a terrifying picture. Corrupt executives had partnered with counterfeit suppliers, pocketing millions while risking countless lives. Several pilots had unknowingly flown aircraft carrying substandard safety equipment. Every evening after work, I returned home exhausted, pretending everything was normal so Ellis wouldn't worry. He noticed anyway. Children always do. One afternoon he placed a small folded drawing inside my toolbox. It showed the two of us standing beside an airplane under a bright blue sky. Above us he had written, "Dad always fixes what's broken." I stared at that drawing longer than any maintenance report. Sometimes the greatest strength doesn't come from awards or promotions. Sometimes it comes from an 8-year-old who still believes his father is a hero. As investigators gathered enough evidence, pressure increased dramatically. Anonymous phone calls warned Serena to stop asking questions. Someone followed me home twice. My toolbox was searched while I ate lunch. Every warning carried the same message. Walk away. Forget everything. Protect your son. Fear crept into every quiet moment. But every time I considered leaving, I remembered families trusting aircraft to carry loved ones safely across the sky. Silence would make me part of the betrayal. The investigation reached its climax during a scheduled board meeting attended by investors, auditors, and senior executives. Serena invited me to present technical findings explaining how counterfeit components entered the fleet despite official inspections declaring everything authentic. I walked into the conference room wearing my cleanest work clothes, still feeling painfully out of place among tailored suits. Some executives barely acknowledged my presence. Others smirked at the mechanic carrying a toolbox. Then Serena projected photographs comparing genuine aviation parts with the fake equipment recovered from her aircraft. I explained every difference carefully. Every altered serial number. Every forged certification. Every impossible inspection date. Then I produced my old pilot license. Not because it made me important, but because it proved I understood both maintenance and flight safety. Questions turned into silence. Silence turned into panic. Independent auditors confirmed transaction histories matching fraudulent suppliers. Bank records revealed hidden payments. Electronic signatures exposed internal conspirators. Within hours, authorities launched criminal investigations involving nearly $99 million in fraudulent contracts. Several executives resigned immediately. Others were escorted away for questioning. News channels called it one of the largest aviation fraud cases in recent corporate history. Yet none of that mattered as much to me as what happened afterward. A week later Serena visited the small airport again. This time she wasn't there because something was broken. She found Ellis helping sweep the hangar floor after school. She knelt beside him and asked what he wanted to become when he grew up. Without hesitation he answered that he wanted to fly beside his dad. Serena smiled. Then she turned toward me and handed over a sealed envelope. Inside was an employment offer unlike anything I imagined. She wanted me to become director of flight safety for her company's entire aviation division. The salary erased years of financial struggle. The benefits secured Ellis's future. But what brought tears to my eyes wasn't the paycheck. Attached beneath the contract was another document. It covered every expense required to renew my commercial pilot qualifications. She said the world needed more pilots who valued lives more than profits. Months later, after completing retraining, I climbed into the cockpit once again. The engines hummed beneath a bright daytime sky exactly as I remembered. Only this time, standing beside the runway waving with unstoppable excitement was Ellis. As the aircraft lifted gently into the sunlight, I realized life hadn't returned what I had lost. It had given me something even greater. Purpose earned through pain. Respect earned through integrity. Hope earned through refusing to compromise when doing the right thing became difficult. Ellis later told everyone at school that his father fixed more than airplanes. He fixed broken promises. Maybe that was the greatest compliment I would ever receive. Before this story ends, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment telling us what moment touched your heart the most, because your words often encourage someone else who quietly needs hope today. As the years passed, Serena's company became known not only for innovation but for the strictest aviation safety standards in the industry. Every new technician learned the story of the mechanic whose forgotten pilot license uncovered a $99 million secret. My framed license hung inside my office, not as a reminder of what I once was, but as proof that character is never measured by the title on your business card. It is measured by what you choose when nobody expects anything from you. If this story moved you, please like, comment, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to the Dad Chronicles so more people can discover stories that remind us kindness, honesty, and courage still exist. And remember, sometimes the smallest act of integrity can change not only your own future, but the lives of countless strangers you'll never even meet.